The choir's voices floated through Living Water's Dominion Church like warm sunlight breaking through stained glass. The air smelled of rose petals, perfume, and celebration. Guests whispered in delight as the bridal music built toward a crescendo. Phones rose like digital lanterns, capturing every detail. Chidinma Maduabuchi, a well-respected pharmacist in Owerri, stood tall at the altar, his white agbada trimmed in coral gold, cap tilted with princely precision. His eyes were soft with hope, like a man who had known grief and was finally ready to breathe again. Behind him stood his 9-year-old daughter, Chidinma Maduabuchi, in a neat ivory dress laced with silver butterflies. Her braids were adorned with tiny coral beads, her mother's favorite. Around her neck, a delicate red coral necklace rested, once worn by her late mother, Ngozi, on every school award night. It was Chidinma's quiet armor now. In her trembling hands was a small white ring box, but inside was more than just gold bands. Hidden under the velvet cushion was a note written in childlike but bold Igbo. Nunye achoro egbu papa m. This bride wants to kill my father. But no one knew that yet. The doors at the back of the church creaked open. The crowd turned. Gasps and sighs of admiration rippled through the room. Vivian Nwankwo, robed in a flowing white gown, stepped forward with grace. Her smile was modest, her veil laced with tiny crystals that glittered under the lights. Her every step was practiced soft, perfect. She was beauty, warmth, and confidence rolled into one. Or so it seemed. Chidinma watched her approach the altar with eyes too sharp for a child. Where others saw grace, Chidinma saw something else, a coldness hiding behind perfect makeup. A stiffness in her eyes, a quiet calculation in the way she glanced at her father. Her fingers gripped the ring box tighter. She tried to breathe, but her chest felt like stone. Her father beamed at Vivian. He looked happy, genuinely happy, and that scared Chidinma more than anything else. Because behind his joy, she saw how completely blind he was, blind to the whispers, the warnings, the things Chidinma had tried to say but could never fully explain. Not yet. The music faded. The congregation sat. Pastor Chisholm opened his Bible and smiled broadly. Today we witness love renewed, a second chance, a healing. But Chidinma's mind had drifted far from the pulpit. She saw again the memory of her mother's empty chair in their living room, the one no one dared sit in. She remembered the day Ngozi went to buy spices from Eke Ukawu Market and never came back. A car crash, a single phone call, a funeral she was too young to understand. The house had been quiet ever since. Then one day, Vivian arrived. At first she brought cheerful gifts, shiny books, glitter pens, pink hair clips. She hugged Chidinma. She laughed loudly. She even tried to learn to say Ada M, my daughter. But Chidinma felt something strange from the start. It wasn't just that Vivian sat in her mother's chair. It was how she did it, like she had always belonged there. Later, Vivian moved in with a single suitcase. Chidinma said it was to prepare for the wedding. Chidinma nodded. But she didn't smile. That night, Vivian cooked spicy jollof and served everyone with grace. She made jokes. Chidinma laughed. Chidinma sat quietly. When she dropped her spoon, Vivian's tone changed. Can't you act like a proper girl? Later, Chidinma watched Vivian from the staircase, laughing loudly with neighbors, then changing to a cold whisper when no one watched. The switch was sharp, precise, dangerous. And in her small, quiet heart, Chidinma knew, this woman is not who she says she is. Now standing at the altar in the middle of cheers and hallelujahs, Chidinma could feel the moment approaching. She didn't know how she would do it. She didn't know if anyone would listen. But she knew one thing with unshakable certainty. She would not let her father die. Not again. Not in silence. Not like Mama. The days leading to the wedding blurred into one long rehearsal of pretense. Vivian fluttered through the house like a candle in the wind, cheerful when Chidinma was around, chillingly silent when he wasn't. She called Chidinma a Ninna baby in front of guests, but rolled her eyes the moment they turned their backs. She led morning prayers with sugar-sweet tones, quoting Bible verses about love, yet hissed when Chidinma left a pair of sandals askew. Chidinma, for his part, was floating. He had begun humming again while brushing his teeth, He danced as he counted wedding RSVP cards. "It's a new beginning," he said to Uncle Nonso one night, leaning on the kitchen counter, eyes glowing with conviction. "Ifeoma and Vivian has brought laughter back to this house." Uncle Nonso smiled but didn't respond. He watched Chidinma walk past, clutching her sketch pad like it was the last safe thing she owned. That sketch pad held everything now. Drawings of her mother in yellow wrappers. Scenes of the house before Vivian came. Shaky pencil outlines of a man with a scar above his eyebrow. A man she'd only seen in photos, but would soon fear more than anyone. Because it was on a quiet, humid Tuesday night, just 4 days to the wedding, that everything changed. Chidinma had woken up with a dry throat. She reached for her water bottle empty. Tiptoeing barefoot down the hallway, past the corridor of family portraits and the untouched door of her mother's sewing room, she paused. Voices, whispers, low, urgent. Vivian's voice. "After the wedding, we switch. Obine will think we're just taking a honeymoon to Obudu, but by the second night," pause. A man's voice, sharp, crackling through the phone. "You've secured the policy?" "So, Vivian." "Of course. And 300 million, Chuka. His name, my account. He'll drink that tea, sleep, fall, drown, everything ready. We vanish." Chidinma's heart slammed against her ribs. Her throat dried further. Her bare feet pressed against the cold tiles. "And the girl?" Chuka asked. Vivian hissed. "That one? Useless. Nosy. I'll scare her into silence if she speaks. Let me handle it." The silence that followed was worse than thunder. Chidinma backed away slowly, gripping the walls. Her knees shook. She wanted to run, to scream, to bang on Uncle Nonso's door, or shake her father awake. But something told her it wouldn't work. Not yet. Not without proof. Because Obina wouldn't believe her. Not against Vivian's honeyed words and perfect eyelashes. Not when he still called her our blessing. So instead, Chidinma did the only thing she could. She wrote. She drew. She opened her sketch pad and poured out everything. Vivian, her eyes serpent sharp. Chuka, with his scar and fake smile. Obina, asleep, unaware. Herself in the corner, small but wide-eyed. And under the picture, she wrote in large, firm letters. "If Papa dies, Vivian did it. I saw. I heard. I swear." The next day, Chidinma tucked the sketch inside her mother's coral necklace box, the same box now repurposed as the ring box for the wedding. Then, without a word, she sat through breakfast while Vivian sliced pawpaw and called her sweetheart. She responded with a polite, "Yes, Ma." But inside her, a storm had begun to rise. The sky over Umudu Extension was heavy with clouds that Thursday afternoon. But inside the Maduabuchi home, the air was too cheerful, too perfect. Vivian moved about in a bright red wrapper, humming a gospel song and talking loudly into her phone about centerpieces and canopies. "The cake must be 5 tiers. Obina deserves it, nothing less," she giggled. Chidinma sat quietly in the living room, a book open on her lap, unread. Her eyes were on Vivian's silver laptop closed, always locked, always guarded like treasure. But that afternoon, Vivian's purse swung across her shoulder. "I'm off to eat UKW to pick drinks for the bridal train," she sang out. "Chidinma, behave like the young lady I'm raising you to be." She left. Chidinma didn't wait. 1 minute, 2, then she dashed into Vivian's room. The scent of vanilla lotion and hair relaxer clung to the air. The laptop sat on the desk, closed, untouched. Her palms were sweaty. Her hands shook. She whispered a prayer and opened it. Password. She blinked. Her fingers hovered. Then, without thinking, she typed the most obvious thing in the world. 0000. Click. It opened. Her heart almost stopped. Inside were folders, normal ones like Wedding List and Budget 2025. But one stood out like a shadow in the sun. Thomas_policy. Chidinma clicked. Inside, she found a scanned life insurance policy in her father's name. N300 000 000. The beneficiary, Vivian Nwankwo. Another file read, honeymoon accident plan. Her breath caught. She opened it. A chilling checklist. Private boat booking, sleepy time medication, route to Obudu, ensure he drinks the hibiscus tea. Her fingers trembled. She clicked again, a folder labeled Photos. Inside, Vivian and a man hugging at the beach, kissing in hotel lobbies, his arm around her waist. A familiar scar glared from his left brow. The caption on one selfie said, "To forever, Chuka." They weren't friends. They weren't business partners. They were lovers, and they were planning to murder her father. Chidinma didn't scream. She didn't cry. She acted. She printed the insurance page. She folded it neatly. She returned the sketch she'd drawn the night before and tucked both back inside the coral necklace ring box. But just as she was closing the laptop, keys rattled outside. Footsteps. Vivian. Panic. Chidinma slammed the laptop shut, dashed to her room and grabbed a pencil. She sat on her bed, pretending to sketch. "Chidinma?" Vivian's voice floated in, too soft, too sugary. "Yes, Ma," she answered, head down. Vivian peeked in, lips curved tightly. "You're such a quiet little thing. I like that. Quiet girls are good girls." She smiled, but her eyes held no kindness. When the door shut again, Chidinma exhaled. Then she pulled her coral necklace close to her chest and whispered, "Mama, I have the truth now. Help me be brave." She didn't know how. She didn't know when. But she knew the moment was coming. She would speak with the whole church watching. And this time, no one could deny the storm that was coming. The wedding was just 2 days away. The compound buzzed with excitement. Decorators bustled in and out with garlands, chairs, and white drapes. Aunties sang and fried meat under the mango tree. Laughter floated through the air like confetti. But in Chidinma's chest, dread was tightening like a rope. She couldn't wait anymore. Vivian was growing bolder, humming louder, hugging Obinna longer, squeezing Chidinma's shoulder just a little too hard when no one was looking. That evening, while Vivian stepped out to take a call, Chidinma stood outside her father's study holding the coral ring box. Her fingers shook. Inside were two things. The printed insurance document, her drawing of Vivian and Chuka with sharp teeth and red hearts. Below it, she had written, "Papa, she's lying. She wants to kill you." She knocked softly. "Come in," Obinna's warm voice said. He was seated at his mahogany desk, sorting through envelopes, wedding bills, catering lists, choir arrangements. He looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Nwam, come and sit." Chidinma walked in quietly, her voice caught, then broke. "Papa, I need to tell you something. Something serious." Obinna dropped his pen, sensing the weight in her tone. "Talk to me." She stepped closer, her small hands trembling as she opened the ring box and placed the papers on his desk. "It's about Auntie Vivian. She's not who she says she is." Obinna blinked, confused. "Chidinma? She talks to a man named Chuka. They're planning something bad. I saw pictures. I saw the policy. I heard her on the phone. Papa, she's going to hurt you. Please don't marry her." For a heartbeat, the room froze. Obinna stared at her, then at the papers, then back at her. A deep, tired sigh escaped him. He stood up and knelt before her, gently taking her by the shoulders. "Noam, I know this has been hard, losing your mother, seeing someone else in our lives." Chidinma's eyes widened. "No, Papa, that's not it. I'm not jealous. Shh." He wiped a tear from her cheek, misreading her fear. "Vivian is not trying to take Mama's place. She just wants to love us. I know she may seem strict sometimes, but she's trying." Chidinma shook her head. "She's pretending. Obinna's smile faded. His voice lowered. "Chidinma, enough." Her heart cracked. "I know you're hurting," he said, standing, "and maybe this is how you're coping. But Vivian is not your enemy. She has been nothing but kind to us. Please, don't let grief twist your heart." "Twist her heart?" She stood still as he folded the papers, gently placing them back in the box without even reading them. You're my daughter. I believe in you, but I also believe people deserve a second chance at happiness. Can you try to accept her? For me? She swallowed hard, her eyes burning. But she's lying, Papa. Obinna sighed and kissed her forehead. Not everyone will be Mama, Chidi. But that doesn't mean they're bad. She wanted to scream, but she didn't. She just nodded and walked slowly to the door, clutching the ring box to her chest. Behind her, her father hummed, as he returned to his paperwork, the same tune he used to sing with her mother. As she stepped out into the corridor, she whispered, She's not Mama, she's a storm, and you can't see it. But maybe he would see it in time. She hoped he would, because now only the wedding day stood between her father and the darkness waiting behind Vivian's smile. Morning broke gently over Owerri. The sky was a soft blue canvas, brushed with golden clouds. Birds sang over rooftops. Inside the Maduabuchi compound, the air pulsed with excitement. The wedding day had arrived. Laughter echoed in the courtyard. Aunties in blue lace wrappers and gold jellies snapped photos by the flower arch. Men adjusted their embroidered isiagwu tops while sipping malt and palm wine. The caterers stirred steaming pots of ofe Owerri and ukobi. A DJ tested his speakers near the gate. Everyone was smiling, except Chidinma. She sat in her room in silence, fully dressed in a satin white gown that matched the bridal colors. Her braids had been adorned with tiny golden beads, and her small hands trembled as she clutched the coral necklace around her neck, the one Mama used to wear on Easter Sundays. She wasn't ready, but she had to be. On the bed beside her lay the ring box, still holding the drawing and the printed policy. A truth small enough to hold, but heavy enough to break a storm. She looked at herself in the mirror. Her voice trembled. Be brave, Chidinma. Even if Papa doesn't believe you, the truth still matters. Downstairs, she could hear Obinna laughing with his groomsmen. His voice sounded younger than it had in years. Today's the beginning of everything, he declared. The start of something beautiful. Chidinma's stomach twisted. She could still run to Uncle Nonso. She could still try again to make Papa listen. But would it matter? No. The only way to stop this was to speak when everyone was listening. No whispers, no hiding. She slid the ring box into her purse and took one last look at her sketch pad, which she left tucked under her pillow. Then she walked out of the room and into the chaos of music and celebration. At the church, Living Waters Dominion Church was a spectacle of white flowers, gold drapery, and stained glass reflections. Guests filled every seat. Phones hovered in the air. Ushers whispered and smiled. The choir swayed in rhythm. The whole building seemed to hold its breath in joyful anticipation. Obinna stood at the altar in regal white, trimmed in red. His agbada shimmered under the light. His face glowed with quiet joy. Then the doors opened. Vivian walked in. She was stunning, a flowing white dress that shimmered like silk, a flawless veil, a radiant smile. Gasps rippled through the crowd. Obinna is lucky, someone whispered. She's the very image of grace. But Chidinma didn't look at the dress. She looked at the eyes behind the veil and saw nothing but calculation. She saw the poison behind the smile. She saw the boat tickets, the pills, the fake phone calls. And worst of all, she saw that no one else saw it. Vivian reached the altar, her fingers locking gently into Obinna's hand. The pastor opened his Bible. Today we witness love, rebirth, and restoration. Chidinma's fingers curled around the ring box. She felt her heartbeat in her ears. Her mother's coral beads were warm against her skin. And in that moment, she didn't feel like a child anymore. She felt like the only voice left standing between her father and death. Then came the words, "If anyone here has a reason why these two should not be joined in holy matrimony, speak now or forever hold your peace." The church went silent, and Chidinma, heart pounding, voice trembling, took a step forward. "Papa, please don't marry her." Gasps exploded. The entire church turned. She wants to kill you. She wants to kill you. The words hung in the air like thunder before a downpour. For a heartbeat, all was still. No one moved. No one breathed. Then chaos. Gasps echoed like drums. Phones dropped. Mouths open. A woman in the back clutched her chest. Jehovah Nemema! A man near the aisle whispered, "Did that child just say what I think she said?" At the altar, Chidinma Maduabuchi stood frozen. His eyes were wide, his lips parted. "Chidinma?" he asked, voice barely audible over the murmurs. He took a step forward, confusion rising. What did you say?" Chidinma's voice cracked but didn't falter. She held up the small coral-embellished ring box like a sacred offering. "I heard her. I saw it. She's been lying. She talks to a man named Chuka. She said after the wedding you would die. Please, Papa, don't marry her." All eyes turned to Vivian, still standing beside Obinna in her perfect gown. Her smile didn't break. Not yet. Instead, she let out a soft, practiced laugh. "Oh, sweet girl. It's okay. She's just overwhelmed. You know how children get." Chidinma didn't blink. "She's scared," Vivian continued, her voice silk and sugar. "She's still mourning her mother. And now there's a new woman. I understand, but this is not the place." A few in the audience nodded sympathetically. Obinna looked between them, between his daughter and the woman he was seconds from marrying. His face was storming with conflict. But before he could speak, Uncle Nonso rose slowly from the third row. "I believe her," he said clearly. The church fell into stunned silence again. "I've watched this child fade for months," Nonso said, voice strong. "She used to run around like sunshine in human form. Since Vivian came, she's been quiet, withdrawn, drawing pictures and hiding pain no one else bothered to see." Vivian turned sharply, her eyes narrowing. "Excuse me?" Nonso ignored her. "Obinna, you know I don't speak unless I'm sure. But look at her. She's not lying. Not today." The room began to shift. The spell was breaking. Obinna looked down at Chidinma, trembling but still standing tall. "Is this true?" She nodded and slowly opened the ring box. Inside, her drawing Vivian with a crooked smile and fangs, standing beside a man labeled Chuka, and Obinna asleep under a red X. The printed insurance policy, N300-000-000 in Vivian's name. Honeymoon accident plan.pdf, printed below in fine type. Obinna's hands shook as he picked it up. He read. His knees nearly buckled. He turned to Vivian. "Who is Chuka?" he asked. Her smile cracked. I don't know what she's talking about. She must have snooped. Who is Chuka?" Obinna's voice thundered through the church like a clap of iron against stone. Vivian's breath caught, her mask shattered. "And then," she snapped. Her voice turned sharp, venomous. "You stupid girl, you little rat! You've ruined everything!" The congregation gasped. Someone dropped their fan, a woman screamed, "Azu kwa!" Even Pastor Chisholm staggered back. Vivian turned to Obinna, eyes blazing. "You were too blind to see it, always crying about your dead wife, always needing someone to cook your food and stroke your ego. Chuka and I gave you what you wanted." Obinna stepped back, his face pale. "You were nothing but a target," she hissed. "You and your annoying daughter. I should have silenced her when I had the chance." Gasps turned into murmurs. Murmurs into shouts. "Call the police!" someone yelled. But Vivian was already moving. She grabbed the hem of her dress, tore off her veil, and ran down the aisle past stunned guests, past stunned ushers, and burst through the church doors into the street. Gone. Silence fell again, heavier than before. Obinna collapsed to his knees beside Chidinma. He took her hands, trembling. His voice broke. "I should have listened. I didn't protect you. I let her into our lives." Chidinma didn't speak. She just wrapped her arms around her father, and for the first time in months she felt like he was really there. Present, awake, alive. Outside, somewhere down the road, the sound of horns blared and someone yelled, "Stop that woman!" But inside the church, a father held his daughter like a drowning man who had finally found the shore. And somewhere above them, sunlight poured through the stained glass like a promise. The storm was not over, but the silence had been broken. The police arrived less than 30 minutes after the wedding disaster. Two uniformed officers stepped into the church compound with quiet authority. Guests parted for them like water. Inspector Ekene Ejogu, tall, soft-spoken, and serious, approached Obinna and Chidinma in the church office, where they had retreated after the chaos. Obinna sat with his head bowed, one hand holding Chidinma's, the other gripping the folded insurance document. His wedding egbada was now creased, his eyes tired, but clearer than they had been in years. "She saved my life," he said to the officers. "My daughter saved me." Chidinma didn't speak. Her hand stayed wrapped around her coral necklace. Inspector Ekene nodded. "We'll need to collect everything. The laptop, documents, photos. Is the suspect's real name confirmed as Vivian Wankwo?" Obinna hesitated, then reached into a drawer. "No, her passport said Ifeoma Nwachinamir. She used Vivian as an alias." The officers exchanged glances. "And Chuka?" Ekene asked. "The man mentioned?" Chidinma leaned forward and opened her sketchpad. She turned to a fresh page and, in just a few minutes, drew Chuka's face, curly hair, scar over one brow, dark bracelet on his wrist. "She had pictures of him on her laptop," she said quietly. "They kissed. She called him her forever. They planned everything together." Later that evening, the officers searched Vivian's room at the Maduabuchi house. Hidden under a false lining in her suitcase were a burner phone with call logs to Martin's Last Chuka, boat reservation documents to Obudu Mountain Resort, 2 bottles of a sleeping agent labeled Natural Drowsy Extract. Everything matched Chidinma's claims. That night, as rain tapped gently against the windows, Inspector Ekene returned with news. "We found him." Obinna looked up slowly. "Chuka," Ekene confirmed. "Real name Chuka Ezenwa. We caught him trying to board a night bus to Abakaliki. Fake ID, cash, passport with the name Tunde Odili." "And Vivian?" Obinna asked. "She was spotted entering a cab in Owerri North, wearing jeans and a head wrap. The driver got suspicious after seeing her face on a phone alert and stopped at a checkpoint near Mbaze Road. She was arrested without resistance." Chidinma's chest finally loosened. The next morning, in the quiet of the house, Obinna stared at the chair by the window, the one that once belonged to Ngozi, his late wife. He hadn't looked at it for months. He had tried to fill the silence she left behind with laughter, movement, and someone else's smile. But now he saw clearly. No one could replace her. And no one had the right to take what they never built. Uncle Nonso sat beside him, sipping hot tea. "The storm didn't win," he said. "You did, because you raised a child who could speak truth, even when you wouldn't hear it." Obinna nodded slowly. "I almost lost her. Again." "No," Nonso replied. "She brought you back." In her room, Chidinma opened her sketchpad. She removed the old drawings of fear, of Vivian's fangs, of Chuka's face. And in the center of a new page, she drew something different. Her father kneeling at the altar, herself standing before him. And above them, her mother's coral necklace glowing like a circle of protection. She added words in bold under the image. "Mama, I spoke. He heard. We are safe now." A full year passed. The rains came and went. The mango tree in the compound bloomed again. The house on Umudu Extension was quieter now, not empty, but peaceful. The kind of silence that healed, not haunted. Inside the living room, the chair by the window, Mama Ngosi's chair, had been cleaned, its faded cushion repaired, and a new lace doily laid gently over the headrest. No one sat in it still. It remained sacred, but no longer sorrowful. Chidinma Maduabuchi, now 10, sat by the low glass table, carefully tying ribbons onto a gift bag filled with drawings. Her braids were neater, her eyes softer, no longer clouded by fear. A framed sketch of her family, Mama, Papa, and herself beneath a tree, now hung proudly beside the bookshelf. From the kitchen, Obina appeared in a t-shirt and wrapper, carrying a tray with yam slices and avocado. "You still love roasted yam, eh?" She smiled. "As long as you don't burn it like Uncle Nonso." They both laughed freely, easily, like music returning to a long-quieted room. Oh, the doorbell rang. Obina stepped out and returned with Inspector Ekene, now in casual clothes. "They've made it official," Ekene said. "Vivian, or rather, Ifeoma Nwachinamere, has been sentenced. 25 years, attempted murder, conspiracy, and multiple frauds across 3 states. Obina exhaled. Not with anger, not even with triumph, but with release. "And Chuka?" he asked. "Still awaiting sentencing, but the evidence is stacked." Eken turned to Chidinma. "They used your sketches in court, your drawings, your courage." Chidinma smiled, clutching the red coral necklace she wore every Sunday. "Mama always said truth is like light. Even if you cover it, it will find a crack." Ekene smiled. "Your mama was right." Later that afternoon, father and daughter sat on a picnic mat near the banks of the Owerri River. The water shimmered in the golden afternoon sun, dotted with soft ripples. Birds danced in the air. Behind them, a group of school children played by the trees. Chidinma leaned against her father, her art pad resting on her knees. She was sketching again, not shadows or monsters this time, but sunlight, canoes, and ripples on water. Obina looked over her shoulder. "You know," he said, "your mama would be proud. She always said you had a fire in you. I just never knew how much." Chidinma paused. She traced a soft curve on the page, a woman's hand holding a child's. Then she said, "We protected each other, Papa. You didn't see it at first, but you stood when it mattered." Obina nodded, eyes glassy. "I promise," he said. "No more shadows, no more pretending, just light, just truth." They watched the river in silence. Then with a shy smile, Chidinma unzipped her backpack and handed him a wrapped envelope. "What's this?" he asked. "Something I've been working on." He opened it slowly, a hand-drawn book titled The Girl Who Spoke the Storm. Inside, pages of pencil art, narrating their journey. Mama's loss, Vivian's smile, Chuka's shadow, the church, the escape, the healing. "This is your story," Obina whispered. "No, Papa," she said, resting her head on his shoulder. "This is ours." At the next Founders' Day event at her school, Chidinma stood before the assembly, her voice firm, her drawings projected behind her. "I used to think no one would believe me because I was small," she said. "But now I know when truth burns in your chest, even a whisper can become thunder." The hall erupted in applause. Her father stood at the back, tears in his eyes, his hands clapping the loudest.